Hi, I'm Minnie Darke, and I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to tell you a little bit more about my new book, The Lost Love Song. So this is the first time I've ever been in a virtual writers' festival, and I guess the nice thing about it is that since I'm at home, you're probably at home, I get the opportunity to show you a little bit of what it's like for me to be at home and my work environment. So it's not so unusual for writers to be at home. We're pretty used to it, really. We're pretty used to working in our own little nests, but it is a bit more unusual at the moment to have so many other people at home as well. So that's a little bit of a challenge for writers who like a bit of quiet in order to create their new worlds in their books. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about my new book, The Lost Love Song. It's a follow-up to my first book, Star-Crossed. So not a sequel, it's a whole new world. The Lost Love Song begins with a couple called Ari and Diana, very much in love. They've been together quite happily for about 7 years. And Diana is a concert pianist. Ari is an IT nerd, and he has trouble understanding why it is that Diana loves him quite as much as she does. But as Diana says to herself, Ari is that most wonderful of creatures. He's an ugly duckling who doesn't know he's already grown into a swan. So he's a character who doesn't have a great deal of ego about him. I'm very fond of him myself, actually. So just before Diana goes away on a concert tour to play concertos at international concert halls, she writes a love song for Ari. She doesn't quite finish it before she leaves, however. And this is how the song gets lost. Diana goes travelling and fate intervenes, and she never has the opportunity to play her love song for Ari. But the song itself develops a bit of a life of its own, and to begin with, it's overheard in the hotel bar in a Singapore hotel. And the person who overhears it is a man called Benet. He's a single father to a teenage daughter. And when he hears this beautiful love song, for him it becomes a story or a song about how he feels about his daughter, whom he's raising on his own. So Benet takes the song home to London to his teenage daughter. And from there, the song finds its way around the world. It goes to all kinds of places: Edinburgh, Vancouver, Toronto, Prince Edward Island, New York. And every time it moves, it intervenes in a different love story. So it travels from ear to ear and from heart to heart. Each time that it reaches a new set of ears or intervenes in a new love story, it's a different kind of love that's being explored in the story. So at one point, it's a love story between two teenagers, that kind of very passionate first love. And actually, when my English publisher first read the draft of The Lost Love Song, she said to me, "Do you think maybe the story between the two teenagers is a little intense?" And I said, "I don't think it's possible for a love story between two teenagers to be too intense." So that was a fun part of the novel to write. But it's not just romantic love either. There's also a love story between two estranged brothers. But the real question is, as the song moves around the world, all of these different destinations, can it find its way back home to Ari, to Melbourne? Can it find its way back home to the person it was originally intended for? And what about Evie Greenlees? She's a really important character in this novel. She's a young Australian abroad. She wants to be a poet, but somehow she's found herself spending her days working in a Starbucks cafe and her nights pulling beers in a pub in Edinburgh. She first hears the song when she's in a train station, in Waverley train station in Edinburgh, and it makes her realise that the relationship she's in isn't the kind of relationship she really wants. She wants a bigger, better, more beautiful kind of love than that. She wants the kind of love that's expressed in the song. So when she hears the song, it gives her the impetus to make some very big changes. And her story of seeking love and trying to find her poet's soul is a really important part of the novel. The Lost Love Songs had a really good reception so far. My mum likes it, which is really heartening for me. She doesn't always like everything that I write, but she really likes this book. And the lovely folk at Better Reading sent out 40 copies of The Lost Love Song to their readers, who returned an amazing set of reviews telling me that they really enjoyed this novel. And since the beginning of the pandemic crisis, when so many people have been faced with so much bad news and felt their lives changing all around them, a lot of people have told me that The Lost Love Song is just the kind of escapist fiction, uplifting fiction that they need to read right now. So I'm very pleased that the book is spreading some joy out in the world right now. And since we are here at home, I can show you a bit of my library, which is obviously a very important part of my life. I'm ridiculously pleased to have my very own library ladder to help me reach the high shelves. So along here, these are the various editions of Star-Crossed as it made its way around the world. This is how it looked here in Australia in the trade paperback, and this is how it looks in the smaller B format paperback. This is how the novel ended up looking in the USA, where it's a very beautiful hardback, and you can see here the meddling hand of the astrologer on the cover. In Spain, it has a very elegant cover, and the book there is called Predestinados. The expression star-crossed didn't translate exactly into many languages, so that was why the novel ended up getting a lot of different titles as it travelled around the world. So for example, in French it had this lovely title, When the Stars Tangle is the rough translation of that. And in Italian it's called 5 million watts of starlight. In Germany, it's called Under a Good Star, and so on. I think that Star-Crossed ended up being published in about 25 international territories. The Lost Love Song too will be published in the USA, UK, Germany, and I'm hopeful that it too will have a really exciting journey around the world. Okay, so here is another important part of my writing life here at home in Hobart. This is the Gipsy Caravan where I work, and over there to the right of shot you can see my alpacas. That's Pablo with the white face with his head up, and Juanita is the other alpaca. So let me show you a little bit of the Gipsy Caravan. So do you want to come inside and have a look at my studio? So this is my desk where I work, and up here in my little caravan I have some very important friends who help me get my work done. One of them is this little friend, and her name is Enthusiasm. So you can see she likes everything. She likes ballet slippers and boots. She likes jesters' hats, and she wears red velvet hot pants. What's not to like about her? So she's particularly useful at the beginning of a project, but this other friend of mine is very useful at the end of a project, and her name is Patience. And Patience is there to counsel me to, take it slowly when I'm near the end. And then the other person I find it's very useful to have at any stage of a project is Yoda, because he reminds me that writers do or do not. There is no try. So that's very good writing advice, I find. So one of the challenges when I was writing The Lost Love Song is that one of its major characters is a poet, and I am not a poet. And of course, Evie Greenlees, the poet, was going to need to write poems in this book to make it credible and believable that she really is a poet. So I approached a friend of mine. His name's Young Dawkins. He's originally from the USA. He was very instrumental in the Beat Revival movement in New Hampshire. He also spent a period of his life living in Edinburgh, where he was Scotland's poetry slam champion. He now also lives here in Hobart, Tasmania, which is where I live. And Young was courageous enough to accept the crazy invitation that I threw at him, which was, could you write the poems that Evie Greenlees would write in this story? And the first one I asked him to write was, I asked him, could he write a poem called Dandelion Clocks, about you know, dandelions when they go to seed, and you know, children pick them up and blow on them, and the amount of times they blow is what the time is. So when Young gave me the poem in response to my request, I was absolutely blown away by it. So let me read you Dandelion Clocks by Young Dawkins being Evie Greenlees. Dandelion clocks, accurate, wound on the language of wind and the eager breath of children counting hours their own way, launching fluff parachutes into a future that only aches to be yellow again. So I like to think that this is an added extra bonus of the Lost Love Song. You're not just reading my work, but you also get to read the poems of a very celebrated, talented poet. So I'm really glad you could come and visit me at my home and see a little bit of the inside of my writing world. And I hope that if you decide to read the Lost Love Song, I really hope that it brings you joy. You can buy it as a physical book, of course, but you can also get it as an audiobook or an ebook. And I just wanted to tell you a lovely little story about the audiobook, which is that it's not read by one reader, but two. And the people who read it are a real life couple, Ariane Wen Parks Lockwood and her partner Marcello Fabrizi. And so I really love the fact that a couple who are in love alternate telling the story of the Lost Love Song. So I hope that wherever this message finds you and whatever your version of lockdown looks like, I hope you are okay. I hope you stay safe and well. And I hope that books sustain you during these dark times.